Clockwise, right?
Welcome. Here we go. Elementals out there. Welcome back to another show of the Four Elements United. Today, I am your host and I am Water.
Earth.
I'm Win.
And I'm fire.
All right. And we have a crazy show that I would have never thought that we would do because initially this show was chartered as I think Earth told us we were going to be thrown into the manosphere. And so we thought, hey, man, we're just going to be speaking to men. However, once we actually had the show rolling, we realized that a big chunk of our diehards who actually come to live shows are women. So we decided to answer some of those questions that women have always wanted to ask a man, but never have. So, guys, before we get started, let's just lay a little bit of ground rules, okay? If you're showing up to the live chat late, you're going to miss this, but please comment, have fun and comment. Earth, fire, wind, if you guys can actually man the comments so that we can actually make sure that people are being responded to. However, we're not pulling questions from the comments. Last Wednesday, I put the word out that we were going to do this show, and I said, hey, bring in your comments, send us what you have, send us your questions. We have like 60 questions. There's no way we're touching anything in the comments. So, but feel free to send more questions in. Who knows? These guys like to do multi-part shows, so maybe we'll actually do a part two. Maybe, I don't know. It's up to the elements. I won't be the one who decides that one. But before we start, I just want to go around the horn and allow the elements to create the space for what we're about to embark on. Elements, what do each of you have to say in regards to this particular show and the questions that we are about to answer and the space that we're about to create?
Yeah, so for me, the space of nothingness, I have no clue what the questions are. I didn't read one. I didn't even sniff a question. So just the space of nothingness so that anything can be created out of that space. So we can just blow them out, have fun, answer them honestly, guys, we'll do that anyway. All right, but that's what I want to create. That's for me.
This was a very much anticipated show, a nice episode for the ladies. So let's get to it.
Yeah, and to add to all of that, I think for me, I like to create a space of understanding. For some reason, men speak a different language, and there's a lot of preconceived notions about each gender. And I'm hoping that we provide a space of understanding and clarity for all of the elementals. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
As you can see, fire is the Luther Vandross of the elements.
Oh, we need that. And if you're just tuning in for the first time and you've never seen our show before, our show is about conscious masculinity. So you will not hear us answering questions in some toxic masculine way. At least I hope. we may think that we're conscious and we may be toxic, but I think yeah, exactly. When probably out of all of us will be the least or the most likely to get triggered by something. But we want to make sure that everyone knows that this show is about conscious masculinity. We're not out here. We're going to try to give you some solid answers from four men who actually do work on themselves, who actually have been in a space of toxic masculinity and are now on the journey of conscious masculinity. So without further ado, let's fire away. Now, I told you we have over 60 questions, so there's no way we're getting to all of these. I'm just going to roll them out. Let's all chip in to say what we have to say. And here we go. The first question I want to roll out. And by the way, before I get into this, I'm going to bounce around. Some of these are about relationships. Some of these are about marriage. Some of these are about specifically about men. Some of these are about habits and things like that. We're going to bounce around and just not go in any sort of order. So there won't be any particular theme to these. But elements. The first question for you is, why is there a negative connotation associated with therapy for men?
Let's all speak at once. How about that?
I mean, I could answer it, but I want to make sure that you all get to get in there.
I'm just gonna say
go ahead, Fire.
Because in my mind, I'm like, I gotta go last because when I go first, the consciousness level of my answers aren't where they need to be.
so basically, you want to feed off everybody else.
Hey, bingo. Especially you. I'm gonna wait for you to go, then I'm gonna piggyback what you say. It's not to do that much thinking.
No, that's an easy one because we don't think we need it. We think we're good. That's easy. So I think about like the space that I was in, prior to going to therapy. You just don't understand. In all seriousness, I don't think that men understand the impact that life has on us. I don't think we understand that. And I think one of the reasons we don't understand it is because it's so easy for us to compartmentalize something like a trauma and literally function at quote, 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 a relatively high level throughout life. And whatever that thing is, it's compartmentalized. And we don't get that it's actually like seeping through the compartment, impacting every area of our life, but it may not be impacting it in a way that we can recognize it, because for us, we're still functioning in our minds. And I think that has a huge thing to do with why we don't seek therapy in the way that I think many of us should. Because if you live anywhere, I'm going to say in the diaspora, you need some therapy, period. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I might add 2 more cents once I hear what Fire has to say, what Win has to say. So, go ahead.
Go ahead, Win. You don't got to.
You want to go last? Okay.
You don't got to be the smartest guy in the room all the time, Win.
So I just think that most of us, to have to go to therapy is an admission that there's something wrong, right? And nobody necessarily wants to admit that there's something wrong. That's number one. Number 2 is that when we were growing up, the thought was that most therapists were Caucasian, right? We weren't privy to African American or Black therapists, right? That could speak directly to our situations, and so many guys, simply didn't want to, sit with those individuals that they thought that they couldn't make a difference. You know what I mean, with their lives. So that's 2.
I'm gonna keep it brief because we got 60 questions in less than 60 minutes. So I'm gonna do it in 30 seconds. Basically, it comes down to ego. The last thing the ego. Let me just clarify. The ego is a part of you. Let's stop acting like the ego's out there, right? Let's stop acting like the ego is the boogeyman of the devil. It's all a part of who you are. Okay, let's just be clear about it. But the ego seeks to be right and make others wrong. So if someone suggests therapy, the ego is like, "What are you saying something's wrong with me?" Nobody like that. That's a real problem. Second thing, especially in the African American community, is if someone suggests therapy to you, the default is that you're crazy. Something's wrong and you're crazy. Those 2 things together will yield what we see in therapy. It's becoming more popularized now due to athletes and entertainers being open about mental health and mental health issues. But you're wrong or effed up and crazy. It's like, nah, because to go to a therapist would be to admit that. That's how strongly held that belief is. Water?
That was more than 30 seconds, but great answer. Great answer.
Yeah.
So I will definitely keep it brief on this and just say, hey, listen, all 3 of these guys gave a great answer to that. And mine will boil down to one simple word, which is fear. If I go to therapy and what I'm afraid of as a man So women, listen to this. So that when you suggest therapy to your significant other, your father, your brother, whoever, okay, your coworker, it doesn't matter. You suggest therapy to a man. What you are really saying to me is, hey, I would like for you to go get vulnerable with me and some other person. And now that V word is a no for men. So for us, my opinion is that we're afraid to go to therapy because of a fear of being vulnerable. Now, question number 2. Man, this is wow. We're 10 minutes in and we're on question 2. Here's another question. Why is it so hard for men to share your emotions other than anger?
Ooh. Ooh. All right, real quick. Sonny, brother Sonny, piggyback this in the comments. You can go ahead and piggyback the first question. We won't read it, but everybody will see it who's on Facebook. Okay, so go ahead and drop that. Generate the question again, Water.
The question is why is it so hard for men to share emotions other than anger?
Yeah, because we don't acknowledge anger. Anger is like the emotion that gets a pass. Like we don't even categorize it in the emotional bucket.
It's not an emotion.
It's not. You know what I mean? Like so we don't view it that way. So when we and on top of that, when we behave in an angry fashion, there is an association between that way of being and being a man. It's subconscious. It's in our programming. Maybe it's from your parents. You know, my dad was a barker. My coaches barked. You know, my gym teachers, they barked. You know, the male authorities, police bark. Hey, put your hands up. You're like, they bark, right? And so when you see a man barking, you the default is, oh, that's a man being a man for most people. Conscious people will see that as toxicity. I'll pause there.
Excellent. Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna do this in a fire 30-second. How about that? So for me, it's growing up, it's anger is really one of the only emotions that you can really express without sort of being shunned in a way. Because if you're crying, if you're showing any other emotion, stop whining, stop crying, be a big boy. You know, big boys don't cry, don't whine, like you hear all that. So then you're like, okay, so if I don't do that, then I'm good. So let me express anger. You can express anger because for the most part, the way that men actually communicate with each other and the way that we function is sometimes on the edge of anger. The thing about sports, it's on the edge, it's aggression. And so that's accepted by society. It's acceptable for you to lash out in the context of masculine manness with other men. And so there's a space for that, but there's not a space for you to be vulnerable. And so that's something we just stuff away and put in the closet, suitcase, whatever, and just like, we'll deal with that. So when women deal with us, that's the emotion that's worked all our lives. It actually gets results. You know, crying and showing your emotions never got any results. So the anger, the aggression gets results. So that's the default. And I'll pause right there. What y'all got?
So we did a full episode on men's feelings and emotions, as well as toxic and conscious masculinity. I would defer to those episodes, and let's keep it moving.
Wow, a brief answer from Win. What is wrong with you, bro? What's going on today? What on? So I'll take 30 of Win's seconds since he didn't want any, and I'll say that it goes back to the same thing for me. This unfortunately is a fear of being vulnerable thing. Look, I'm not going to tell you that my feelings are hurt. Like, how does that make me look? Think about this whole life that I've built, this whole outer shell that I've built. Why would I actually tell you my feelings are hurt? I'm scared. What are some other emotions, guys, that like you would never, or I mean, maybe you do, but you probably never would say? My feelings are hurt. I'm scared. What else?
I'm sorry was a struggle.
I'm sorry. What else? When? Come on. There's some things you're not saying. We already know. You never say them. Emotions that you.
I'm not sorry.
Okay. So what I guess my whole point with that is just saying that if I have to say something other than I'm upset or I'm angry, then that doesn't like that for an unfortunate. I think we learn this at a young age as young boys. You start to understand what masculinity is, and crying and expressing feelings are not part of what masculinity is taught to certain young men. I'll leave it at that. And the next question is, this is a dangerous one, but I've got to do it because I know that a lot of women would like to know this. If you could change one thing about women, what would that be and why?
You gonna do that this early in the show?
Hey, bro, I'm glad I don't have to answer first.
Repeat the question.
He's asking me to repeat the question. You stalling, bro. You stalling. So, if you could change one thing about women, what would that be and why?
All right, I got it.
I know.
It's only okay. It's the understanding. Okay, so if it's one thing, then it's empathy. I wish that women more easily could get in our shoes, and I'm sure if we asked women the same question, they would say the same thing. But if I could just narrow it down to one, and I got 30 seconds, it's just understanding, and that is actually the purpose of this conversation, the intention of this conversation. The hardest thing that I see in observation of relationships is the disconnected communication. Like everybody's talking, but nobody's really communicating and being heard. And I think it's a lack of empathy. I would answer that the same way if you said if you could change one thing about men, because I think that is the gap between us. But you asked about women, it's communication and contextual understanding. Without the rabbit hole, we got to define everything and double click and well, what do you mean by that? And then what do you mean by this? Well, what did you mean by this? Like, yo, I said what I said. Like how you're hearing something else by default, and I got to translate it or explain it to even get to the same for us to get on the same page. It could be exhausting. That's why I'm with the same woman for 20 plus years, because I don't want to do that again. She's trained. I'm not doing that again ever.
She trained or you trained?
Both of us.
There you go.
Yeah, we know what really that we know what that meant. Like he didn't have to explain it. Earth.
So does it have to be one thing? No, I'm just joking. I can do one.
Boy.
I can do one. No, and it's sort of in the realm of what Fire was mentioning, and for me, it's just being able to effectively communicate, because sometimes women leave things up to interpretation, and you're like, well, I said, I didn't feel good, but you didn't say you didn't want to go. You didn't say that. You just said you didn't feel good. So to me, that doesn't mean you didn't want to go. Whereas generally, most men will say, like, I don't want to go. And it's that. So I would say, being able to effectively communicate exactly what's so for you. And because you're not going to hurt my feelings. You don't want to go, you just don't want to go. That's a high probability. I just go by myself. And I have no issue with that. Most men don't have an issue with that at all. So yeah, I will say that there's this other one that I could actually add, but we'll go around the table. Maybe.
Yeah, women expect us to read their minds, and unfortunately, we none of us can read each other's minds. So for me, it's something that I appreciate about women, but it's also something that I don't. And I will just share this: it's vanity. And one of the things I appreciate about women is that they love the aesthetics, they love beauty and being gorgeous and everything. But when it gets to a superficial stage, then it gets, it can get real nasty, And I also hate women that are like egregiously late and have no respect for time.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
So those are great. Those are three great things. I would just, I'm not gonna go down with when. I'm kind of trying to segue back into when. I'm not going there with you, Win. I'm gonna leave you on an island on that one. But what I will say is that I completely agree. I think it's unanimous. Is the communication barrier between men and women is so distinctly different that it really causes a big moat between people in relationships. As Wynn said, not all women, but some women really expect you to read their mind. As Earth said, some women double speak, meaning that they say one thing, but they mean another. And that goes back to the mind reading thing is like I did not know that. And so I think that it's probably unanimous through the elements that the communication thing is really the biggest thing that we would change, because if you could actually do that, then there probably would be less conflict and you could get what you wanted. But at the same time, that doesn't really seem like it's specific to women. That could be the same thing with men. That's a conversation for another day. Now, the next question is a very dicey one.
They're all dicey, bro.
Nah, this one's very dicey. Can men and women just be purely platonic friends?
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Okay. If it's easy, oh, that you messed it up. I was gonna say if it's easy, let those two dudes answer first.
Oh. No, yes, I have one of my closest friends from college is a woman. We were roommates in college. There was never anything there because I was clear in my mind, like I looked at her like a sister and she looked at me like a brother. So yeah, absolutely. And the other women who I'm just platonic friends with, I have no issue with that at all. None. And I'm not checking for them in that way.
So I'll answer it this way: yes, it's possible, but as the married man on the panel with the same lady for 21 years and some change, personally, I don't recommend it. That's me, and I'll add to that by saying everybody has a different. Oh man, I can't say the word. Gosh, you're killing me, Water. Everyone has a different connection point. I'll say connection point. The word starts with an S, ends with an X, right? So everybody's different in that regard. There are sapio sexuals, right? And those people are very heady. They are attracted to the mind. There are demi sexuals. Those people have to have a emotional connection in order to do the deed. I'm a demi. Then there are people who are just asexual. They don't care. A hole in the wall. They're going at it. They're going to town, right? And so when you're a demi, like me, I'm gonna just be transparent. It's dangerous for me to have female friends because I'm a giver and a caregiver. So if I start to care for you, then I have to put up some real barriers, because if I want to take
some real strong defense,
like bro, like the glove in its prime, you know what I mean? Because once I care for you, I want to see you win in life. I start pouring into you. You start feeling me. I'm like, oh, I want to. That's like, oh no, I need to pour all that into my queen. So for me, I would say it's possible, but you got to know what kind of asexual you are, because if you put yourself in a position as a demi to be caring for somebody else, there's probably going to be an emotional affair, and that thing could turn physical. If you're a sapio, you could be talking to somebody who you like, yo, she or he is so intelligent. I just love talking to him. I love his brain. I love her mind. All of a sudden, you're in a relationship. Now you have an emotional relationship with somebody who you think is more intellectually and mentally stimulating than the one you with. So again, possible. But I don't recommend it unless you know who you are and you got your barriers, you got your defense. You build some a moat around your heart so that you don't step out.
So far, that was real long. Yes or no?
I said yes, it's possible. However,
but it sounds like you're saying no. It sounds like you just said yes and then you said no.
I'm saying personally, I don't do that.
Okay, so no for you, but yes for others.
Right.
Possibly.
Possibly.
So no. Okay, when?
I said, depending upon the level of consciousness, right? I think it's possible for sure. But I think, everybody has to have a high respect for everybody.
I like that answer, and I would just go with a hard no. I'm sorry, these guys are like they're trying hard. As you can hear, rewind Fire's answer, and you heard no the whole thing that he was saying. He just wanted to say yes to say yes because Earth said yes. So I will give it a hard no. I'm sorry, women. Look, your man that's being a friend is really, hey, you know what's on his mind, and unfortunately, if you were in a relationship with another man, he knows what's on that guy's mind. So that's why he's like, nah. In some parts of the world, we call those like men who are the quote platonic friends. We call them orbiters, and they're just they're like sharks circling, and they're just waiting. And so Earth gave a very conscious answer. Fire, he told himself, even though he said yes. And I don't know what Will was talking about, but I will basically be the one that says, nah, like let's stop playing around. And at the same time, there are women that a man is not attracted to for some reason.
Sure.
So I will give Earth that. For whatever reason, there's just something about that woman that the man's not interested in at all and would never under any circumstances just like, nah, that's nasty. And so there may be women like that that a man would, and this is from a man's perspective. We don't know women what your perspective is, but just from a man's perspective, there may be women where a man's just like, I would never do that.
Right.
But no. All right. So here we go. This one right here is probably very, very. This is hurtful for a lot of men, and I have to bring this one out because women really want to know the answer to this one. How do men feel about dating or being in a relationship with or being married to a woman that is more successful than them? Chill, man. Let them go last. Man.
Okay.
Let them go first, man. I want these two dudes. We're gonna put these two dudes in the boiler. Fire. One of you. Either one.
I had this conversation often in my household, especially recently. So this is a real this hit.
It is real. There's a lot of guys who struggle. Like, go ahead, Fire.
I am not by default, by design. I'm not a guy who will be comfortable in that situation. Not because I'm just it is existential to who I am to provide. Right? That's in my DNA. It's in my ego. I created it. I'm okay with that. I have to take care of my wife, my woman, our children. So for my wife to be, and that's not just financial, but if my wife is making more money than me, bro, we had this conversation. I said to her, I said, look, on this trajectory we're both on, you're going to end up making more money than me in the next 2 to 3 years. So how are you going to feel? She going to answer the question. I know my wife. It would fundamentally disrupt what we have going on. It's that serious. I'm gonna pause right there because I can go on this topic forever because it's real and it's right now.
So you're saying if she made 600 and you made 500 or 450, it would be a problem?
Temporarily, but because I'm on my way to double my income. Like if she's making 6, I gotta make like, bro. We had this conversation. We're having this conversation every day. And so when I feel like I reached a peak or a ceiling professionally, and my wife just blows the roof off and keeps.
Well, that's a whole different question. That's
whoa, when, bro? This is Fire's deal. So you answer the way you want to, but let him answer the way he wants to answer.
I'm just saying.
What it does is it shows me that maybe I was playing too small, and I you know what I'm saying? Maybe I was playing too small, and now I got to go out and create other means and avenues to be the breadwinner. Bro, it could be ego. That's fine. I'm okay with it. It's not something that I want to fix. I just don't want my wife making more than me. I don't want to squash her. I'm always building her up and investing in her. I want her to be a millionaire. That just means I got to be 2x whatever it is that her net worth is. I'm just saying that's me.
Yeah, I get it.
And that's a very real answer, man. So thank you for being vulnerable with that, bro. So women, that was as vulnerable as it gets for a man to answer that question. And rewind that and listen to this guy because it's a real thing for men. When you had some comments.
So for me, everything comes down to respect. If a woman does not, show respect, then it's a problem. It's a very big problem. So for me, I don't care what kind of money you're making. If you're making 600, I make 500. We balling. We good. But when it becomes something that you attach to who you are, and you think that you're better than, then that's where the problem starts.
Earth.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna answer this as quickly as possible. I would say that it wouldn't impact me because my dad, just growing up, my dad he always told me, he said, look, if you get married and your wife makes more than you, just understand she's still a woman, you're still a man, period. And don't ever forget that. And he said, you have to behave as such, regardless of the circumstance, across the board. And he didn't just say it once. I remember him saying that, I think he started saying it when I was like 12. And it was like a repeated thing he just always said. At the end of the day, he said, you're still a man and she's still a woman. And in my life, I've only dated one woman who made more than me. And he was right. She was still a woman and she still had the same needs that women have, period. There was absolutely no difference between that woman. She made more than I did and the other women who didn't. There was literally no difference at all. So he was absolutely correct. And maybe there was no difference because of how I was raised. So I always stayed in, my masculine the entire time. And I never considered it, money being something that makes you more powerful than a person, or having a one-up on somebody. I just never considered that at all. And it's probably because how I was raised. Maybe if I was raised a little differently, matter of fact, it just reminds me when I was dating this woman, a buddy of mine, we met out for a happy hour or something like that. And so we were talking, and then he was like, hey, let me ask you something. He's like, yeah. He was like, so what can you do for that woman? And my reply to him was, she's a woman, just like any other woman. She has the same needs as any other woman, period. So yeah, so that's my answer. That's why I say it doesn't matter. Because I'm still a man at the end of the day. I'm still in my masculine. So yeah, that's mine.
I love it. Yeah, and I've been in a relationship with multiple women who have made more than me, and a couple who made significantly. I mean, they were bona fide ballers. And bro, Earth is great. I mean, if you have something going on with it, then you're going to be like all those other men that they had to deal with who had something going on with it. And my whole thing is that you have to play your part in life, and it doesn't matter if I have a lady that is more successful than me, as long as we both, as Wind was saying, have mutual respect for each other, then that's great. Now, if she has something going on, right, where she's like, oh, you make less than me anyway, sit down, or like if she has that kind of attitude going on with it, then that's a problem for me. And I don't have to stay in that. I'm not going to stay in that because I already know what my self-worth is, and it has nothing to do with my bank account. Now, income and investments are two different things, but we're talking about, we're talking about income and W-2. We're not talking about what your portfolios look like and your net worths and whatnot. And so my whole thing is just agree with Earth and Wind, but I really appreciate Fire's vulnerability on that because that's something that a lot of men do struggle with, and Fire gave a very, very vulnerable answer. Now, here's one that comes up a lot, and this is a term that we all use as men. The question is very short. What is marriage material?
Oh, let me go. Let me go.
The married guy wants to go first. So go ahead.
30. All right, 30 seconds. Framework. Marriage materials, they're multipliers exponentially. So when you pull up to somebody, you engage in a relationship with somebody. It could be a friendship, but we're talking intimate relationships. Some people literally add value. They add value in certain ways. Other people take away. They're straight up liabilities because their lack of integrity spills over into your world because you're fixing what's broken in them in perpetuity. And there are other women who multiply you exponentially as a result of the integrity that they bring to the table, the fact that they see you for who you are and who you are not, and they cause forth the best version of you in perpetuity. That is my wife. She's marriage material. And that's why I married her. She didn't become marriage material after we got married. She showed up that way. And so therefore, it was like, this is a whole different ballgame. Game over. All right.
Yeah, and I just want to interject that was a great answer, Fire. I mean, this is the married man of the elements. So of course, any marriage question, he's probably going to have some super well thought out and enlightened answer. I do want to add that in the comments. Listen, the comments are probably the most on fire that we've had ever, and we just want to say, like, we want to reiterate that, look, we're not pulling questions from the comments, and unfortunately, this is kind of rapid fire, so we can't even really manage the comments. So please have great conversations. We see the conversation going on. It looks like everyone's enjoying our show as well as the conversation that's going on, but we cannot pull a single question from the comments because we have over 60 that we are not going to get to. Earth, wind, what is marriage material?
You want to go in?
It's up to you. You want to
No. I'll go.
Hey, you go first. No, you go.
No, it's an excellent question. And so I was thinking about, what had me marry my ex-wife. And, the thing that is a woman who's marriage material for me is, I love like smart women, intelligent women. No offense against women who are not, but I'm just not attracted to that at all. I love women who are, cooperative, who good listeners. Women who are very understanding, and not just understanding based upon a circumstance, but beyond the circumstance. They're just very understanding. Women and women who have, a lot of compassion, a lot of drive. Like those women are very attractive to me. Now, that's one bucket. I can keep adding to that bucket. Another thing that I look at is I look at a woman's genetics, because that's important to me, because I'm always aware of, if we procreate, who are we bringing into this world? I'm always looking at that. So that's one of the things that's very important to me, extremely important. And I will look, and I may not say anything. Usually I don't say anything until later, but I do eventually say something. I love meeting women's families, because I sit there and I just watch and I observe and see, and I, just kind of navigate through and see what I can see. Because if there's like some rampant, like dysfunction on the highest level, then that's a red flag, a huge red flag. Because I'm a huge believer in, like, you pass down those genes, and then you pass that stuff down, then you have to contend with that. I told a woman once, and she was pissed. And she said I was mean and I was cruel. And I said, if I meet your family, I told her on the front end, I said, if I meet your family and you're the only sane person in your family, I said, this is a no pass. This is a no-go at all. Because that could be the case. And then you're bringing into this world, people or children who, may have some disabilities. As a matter of fact, I know someone like that personally who did that, and only 2 of their kids, it's like, no, one of them is, what you would consider quote unquote normal, and the other 2, there's some serious issues going on over there, some serious learning disabilities and all that stuff. And if you look at the spouse, look at the spouse's family, you see it there. Period. So I'm very like someone with. I look at women's genes. That's just me. Look at their pedigree. That's just me. And for some people, obviously, it doesn't matter at all, but it makes a huge difference to me. Huge. So yeah, that's me. It's my 2 cents.
So for me, I can literally go on for minutes and minutes and minutes about this. I will tell you that, there is an episode, a clip on YouTube that I go into marriage preparation, and it's about 11, 12-minute clip where I talk about certain things. You guys should check that out. But beyond what I said then, I will say that what's very important is the natural disposition of a woman. Are they respectful? Are they kind in the natural environment? Do they have a heart of collaboration and cooperation? Or are they antagonistic and want to fight you at every angle? Respect is a big thing. Honor is a big thing. Loyalty is a big thing. Can you effectively handle conflict and communicate effectively and not get upset and wild out or isolate yourself? All those things are critical, because here's the thing, is that marriage is intended to be a long-term thing. And here you are, you 2 individuals that didn't grow up in the same environment or the same way, and you're coming together, and it's not going to be peaches and cream all the time. It might not even be peaches and cream half the time. So do you have the capacity to negotiate in a fair and a good faith manner? And I'll just end on that. I mean, but I could talk all day about that. We'll probably do another episode about that.
Yeah, you could tell from everyone's very long answers that this is something that men really, really think about a lot. Women, what is marriage material? So everybody had like a 2-3 minute answer on this one. I don't know if they noticed, but it's because they're actually sharing with you, right? So it's not like when you're sharing, you're not thinking, oh, I have 30 seconds, or let me make this quick. You're like, hey, I really, really want to share what I have to say about this. And for me, I'll keep it brief, and I'll say 3 major components of what marriage material is. It's someone that I can actually connect with and stay connected to, right? We may get disconnected, but I am not like, I would never consider marriage material a woman that we do ourselves. Like, she's doing her life, I'm doing my life. To me, that just would not be, that wouldn't be marriage material. And mine are probably unconventional, because the second one is energy. What kind of energy is she actually bringing to our relationship? That's a huge one for me, because I know the kind of energy I bring and the experience that I bring when a woman is Water's woman, and I would just love reciprocity in that perspective. And the third thing for me is an open mind, because I feel like with an open mind, you can get through anything. And to me, as Wynn was just saying, like, marriage is permanent. You're doing that once. And like probably some people think, most people in the US don't really think that way. However, you're saying that, hey, listen, I want to be with this person for the rest of my life. And so with an open mind, I feel like we could get through anything, because we go to therapy. I have to be open. I have to bring an open mind and be like, hey, I'm not going to be that man who doesn't want to go to therapy. Or I may have to start changing some ways of being more vulnerable, as opposed to the way that I've historically been in the past. And I have to bring the same kind of open mind. So I would never want someone to bring to me as marriage material something that I don't have. I don't think that's not a foundation for something successful. Next question, guys. Why is it that I, as a woman, feel like I'm constantly stroking your ego?
Let me go first. I'm gonna just go up the spot.
This guy wants to go first. When? Let's hear it.
Because we're constantly stroking yours. Women love attention. They feed off attention. If you don't give a woman attention and you don't pay her compliments, oh man, it's a wrap. So it's the same thing. I mean, it's a human thing. Everybody desires to be admired and respected, you know, and we just, you know, the expression of it is just a little, it varies a little bit. That's all.
Okay, so let me clarify that so that everybody else doesn't go on this attention thing. Attention and stroking ego are two different things.
Not
Okay,
necessarily.
but they definitely are. So stroking your ego is like, oh, Win, you're a great person. Attention may just be like, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, let me put down my phone and actually spend time with you. Like, attention is a very broad thing. Stroking your ego, I just want to clarify this so that we don't go down the rabbit hole of everybody, you know, using this attention thing. Stroking your ego is specifically about stroking thy ego and not about just, hey, how you doing?
For some women, attention is stroking the ego. We could battle that all day.
Homie.
Son,
Here's the mic.
No, when you did a great job, brother. I get what you're saying, and I agree that it actually goes both ways. So, but the women posed the question, and so I'll answer it this way from my perspective. Why is it that you're constantly stroking my ego? Let's just say my wife said that to me. Well, let's just say did my wife ask that question?
Yes. She made sure that she put her name beside of it so that
Look, first of all, we both need our ego stroked, or we both desire to have our ego stroked. Second of all, because if you want to get the best out of me, and you want to contribute to me being my best self, then I'm gonna need a little bit of praise and adoration, and that is distinct from quality time. I ain't talking about us watching Power Book together in the bed, because that's not stroking my ego. I need you to blow my head up like I can do anything, because I'm going out there in the world with the full backing of my queen, who knows as an African American in this country, I'm going out there in the world to be my best self, to take care of our family. Tell me whatever I need to hear to go out there and deal with everything that I got to deal with and still come home and hold this thing down. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, you name it. Tell me whatever you think I need to hear to be the best version of myself. And I do the same thing for you. It's partnership.
Thank you, Fire, for answering the question and not deflecting like some other people in this conversation.
I just want to add to this. Men do get crushed in a way that women are just simply not necessarily aware and privy to. In a corporate environment, you know, in the streets, I mean, what we deal with every single day as Black men is bananas.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so that's you're absolutely right, and that's kind of in line with what I was going to say, you know, because so when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about, okay, why would I want my ego stroked? You know, when I think about it, like when I was a kid, there wasn't a day that I can remember leaving my house that I felt that I didn't feel like invincible, like I couldn't do at all. There's no day that I left the house feeling that way, and I argue my siblings felt the same way. I never talked to them about that. So it's something that you just become accustomed to in a way, and then like Win said, you just don't get what men deal with, and this is not to negate what women deal with at all. We all deal with what we deal with, and we deal with the same things a lot of times. But the impact that it has on a person is different. You know, it impacts everyone differently. Nevertheless, there is an impact. And so it's one thing to be out in the world, because out in the world, the world isn't necessarily going to acknowledge you just for you. They will acknowledge you based upon your accomplishments, your successes and failures. If you fail in the world, you get no acknowledgement. If there's success, you get acknowledgement. You get your ego stroked. At home, it should matter either way. Because home should be a safe place. But your woman should be a safe place. Period. It should be like a home base, a place where you can rejuvenate, a place that you can become energized to go back out in the world. Nobody can go back out in the world and tackle the world. I argue men or women. We're talking about men, and their woman is degrading them all the time, or he gets no acknowledgement of himself or who he is, especially to her more so than anything. And beyond the shadow of a doubt, all these guys will agree to this. Your woman can actually, in many instances, make or break you, especially when you're in a marriage. It's somebody else in the world can call you dumb, stupid, blah, blah, blah. Let your woman call you that. It's going to land totally different than 100 people who may have called you that or say that to you out in the world. It lands totally different. So there's a huge impact. So I hope what I said made sense, but that's why.
I like that. And that was a great answer from all three of you. Had great answers when I was messing with you a little bit, but you had a great answer. And I would like to add that I lost myself in the notes and don't even remember what my own question was. That's what I would like to say. I hold on, before you do that, I'm sitting here scrolling through 7,000 questions trying to figure out what the next one's going to be, like keep the conversation rolling or whatever. So I don't know. I was looking through a bunch of questions. It was what? Oh, just stroking the ego. Okay, good. So there you go, folks. The worst host on the planet losing his place in the conversation. Look, here it is. You have to stroke our egos. See, these guys, these guys don't want to tell you the truth, right? These guys want to pretend like they're all put together. You have to stroke our egos because we're insecure. Like, if you talk and if you listen, so I listen to my friends, like we have real conversations and I listen like intently. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just insecure. Why? Because I think that women mature much faster for whatever reason. This might be a biological thing. Women mature much faster than men. And as men, we never grow up. Like, look at us. Like, we're trying to plan a trip to go snowboarding and stuff. And most women are like, what is wrong with them wanting to go play in the snow, like wasting money or whatever. But for us, it's wanting to feel like a kid again. Now, I agree with what most, it seemed like everyone was saying, which is that, being a man, there are certain expectations that come along with being a man that women probably don't understand and women don't get. For instance, if a man loses his job, doesn't have any money in his account, his lady kicks him out of the house, he's going to be considered a loser. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care, like, at least in America, I don't know how it is in other countries, but you're a loser, bro. And nobody's going to actually help you. Maybe somebody give you a little bit of help. Maybe you might have that one of your boys who like is ride or die with you, is like, man, come, like you can have the couch or whatever. However, no one's going to do anything for you. Now, reverse that situation around. Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute. That horrible man kicking you out, and there's a lot of resources that are there for you as a woman. So that's just one. So as a man, you're expected to kind of go out and create your own pathway, and there's no excuse for not doing that. And not to say that women don't have that expectation, don't want to do that, don't want to go create their own pathway. But I'm saying that there's certain expectations that are put on men from society, at least from American society, that women don't understand. I'm not like the whole black men have it hard, you know, like that I don't walk in the world that way. I walk through the world in a way that, look, like, I don't really have it hard, but sometimes it may get hard and I have to deal with it. So that was my longest answer of the whole thing. And we have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Should I just read off the rest of the questions in the show? Like, read off what we didn't get to answer?
No.
We can do part 2 next week.
Close us out with a good one, bro.
That's up to you guys. Like, you want to do part 2 next week?
Yeah.
But
When?
Yeah, perfectly fine. I mean, I'm sure that the audience is going crazy.
So look. Audience, we're gonna actually close it out. If you want us to do this, we need to hear from you to say, yes, do a part 2 next week. And if we don't get enough comments, we're not doing it. We're gonna move on. Who was set up to be host next week? Who was gonna do that?
I think I'm after.
So we need to see I don't see any comments right now. I don't see any comments, man. Like, when you better think up your next show, man, because I don't think they want a part 2. I don't want part 2. I don't think that.
They don't want it, bro.
All right, so then let's close out with this actual this question. All right, good. So, what is the biggest misconception women have regarding men? Give me one. Don't go through 5 things. You got to pick one. One misconception that women have about men.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say that all men cheat.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say that all men cheat. That's like that's a guy thing. That's what guys do. Guys cheat. I hear it all the time, and it's sad that perspective was driven by actual heartbreak and being cheated on. No one who was in a relationship where they weren't cheated on thinks that way, because they have empirical evidence that that's not in fact a fact. But most women say that all men cheat, and that is a misconception.
You want me to go, Earth?
Yeah, you can go.
All right. So I think the biggest misconception that women have about men is that we're stupid and simple.
Dang,
I think when,
that was mine.
Nice.
I think that we're more complex than you guys ever imagined, and oftentimes we want the same things that you want. We might not express it in the same manner, but I'm sure if you treat us the way you want to be treated, then relationships will go far.
True.
Earth.
No, well, shoot. Oh, I would have to say that, women think that men are insensitive.
Ooh. Ooh. Elaborate, please.
Well, because a lot of times, men are very like I can say for me, a lot of times I'm very I'm just like, okay, this is simple. Like, this is nothing to cry over at all. Pick yourself up and let's move on. And women will think that's not being sensitive. It's not that I'm not being sensitive. It's just, I get where you are, but you sitting here crying for 2 days is not getting anybody anywhere. It just doesn't at all. And so sometimes, and some women, they like to sulk for a week. And for men in life, we don't have that luxury. We can't sit there and just have a pity party for a week. We can barely do it for 2 minutes. If something happens, we need to address it right away and move on to the next thing. We just in the world, we don't have that luxury to do that. So yeah, that's why I say that.
Yeah, I love those. And the one that I would say is that men don't care, don't love me, or don't know how to love. And I just really want to tell you women that, listen, as a man, our entire world looks different. Okay. Your entire world looks different from us. That's why none of us four are trying to pretend like we understand women. We only have a surface level of understanding about women, but we do care. We can love you. And the ones that are in a relationship with you do love you. It's just that we have never been taught how to communicate nor express emotions the way that you have. And women kind of do it together all the time, but men, like, we don't get together and say, hey, man, I want to tell you about my emotions. Like, let me we may say, hey, here's what I'm going through, here's what I'm dealing with. I'm mad about this because, as we said, anger is one of the emotions that we feel like we can really express, but we don't really know how to express in the way that you know how to express. So sometimes it may seem like we don't care. Sometimes it may seem like we're incapable of loving you. We just care in the way that we know how to care, and we love you in the way that we know how to love. And I'll park it there. And just for the elementals out there who stayed on, we're going to give a little bonus question, right? I know I said an hour. We're at 1 hour. Look, guys, really fast. All right. So don't, like, this is going to be our closeout question. As a matter of fact, let me just not pull that from the list. What's one thing that you want women to know about men? This is our closeout question. And for all of you who actually commented in the comment section, thank you. Yes, we will have a part 2 for next week of this same entire conversation. Questions that women have always wanted to ask men but haven't. And if you do have a question, send it to us. I'm going to put up the social or our email so that you can send it to us, because we did a great job of collecting those. That's the email, 4elementsunited@gmail.com, or go to any of our social media handles and post it there. Just post your question. Wynn does a remarkable job of collecting all of those and putting them into a Google Doc for us. Our social media is at 4elementsunited, so you can go there and ask all of your questions. Leave them in the comments, or you can send them directly to us, and we're going to mash them all together, compile them into the list that we already have that's so long, and hopefully we don't get another 700 questions next week. But guys, what is it that you want to leave women with about men? One thing, and then we're going to close it out. This is the closeout. So this is your wrap up, if you will.
So I'm gonna steal my wife's thunder because she's, her and I are one. So she said exactly what I was going to say before I even got a chance to say it. So I'm gonna just read her comment. This is what I want you to be left with, my sisters.
Hey, bro, you cheating. Your wife did your homework for you, man.
I'm saying it's good. It's so good.
Do our homework, man.
We are one. So men are faithful, intelligent, collaborative, sensitive, and yet solution oriented and loving. And if you're single and you're not attracting a man that fits that bill, you might want to check your magnet.
Nice.
Great. Mic drop.
So I'll leave women with this about men. I'm going to stress, if you are in a relationship, not a situationship, with a man, and you want to know whether or not how he feels about you, whether he loves you, blah, 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 however you want to phrase that. You have to know what he considers as his resources, which goes beyond monetary. And if he is sharing those resources with you, that is a huge indicator that you're the one, that he loves you, that there's something about you. That because a man isn't going to share his resources. That's why I say beyond money, because it's easy to take somebody on a date to some place, that's simple. Look at him and see what are his resources, what he considers as his resources. monetary and beyond monetary, and see how he includes you or shares those with you. That tells you everything. Period.
And I'll just share with you ladies, this is take your time and pick a king. And when you pick that king, treat him like a king. And I promise you, if you treat him like a king, he'll open up the whole world for you and do whatever and anything to make you feel great.
Well said, guys. And I will leave you women with this. Ladies, we can't live with you and we can't live without you. That is the truest statement ever. It's all just a big misunderstanding. But I guarantee you, out of that statement, the one that actually really, really lands harder than the biggest weapon known to mankind is that men cannot live without women.
Period.
It's just, you will not find a man on the planet who says anything different or would choose, I can't live with them. Every man would say, you know what? We can't live without you women. And that's what we want to leave you with. So next week, by popular demand, we'll have part 2 of this show. As I said before, send your questions. If you didn't get that social media in the email, you better go look us up because we're not going to keep repeating it. Women, we love you. Next week, 8:00 Eastern, Wednesday, we're going to do this show again. Send your questions because we know you have more. We know this has unearthed so many more questions, and we're going to do it again just like this. Until next week.
Peace.
Do this.